April 23rd or something, 1934. And that was 84. I said, good God Almighty, that was 50 years ago. But I still, myself, I can remember stuff like that now that I can remember back 50 years. You know what I mean? That's the way people thought. They didn't write as much. Just like the Arabs had a perfect memory, not a perfect, but a good memory. They could memorize, right? Okay, before we start writing a lot, we remembered a lot of things. That's oral history. Like the griots. Okay, so, well, technically that's the way my father was. But the point I want to make about this is, and I think I've mentioned it before, and this is part of our job too. It's definitely part of our job. They was talking about Vicksburg, Mississippi, and that's right on the Mississippi River. Louisiana's on the other side. They said, yeah, troops swam the Mississippi River 3 times, and they was pitching white folks with bayonet. You know, you've been working all the time, right? He said they was pitching white folks like, you know what I mean? That's the way the niggas was doing, you know. And I thought maybe the memory is all right. And then he told me, he said, yeah, the black troops, we had to, a lot of them got killed. He said, but we swam the Mississippi River 3 times. I said, swam the Mississippi 3 times. So I was coming Louisiana, then I see a sign, Mississippi River. And I keep going. You know where rivers go in an S like sometime? I'm going straight across, next sign, Mississippi River. And the next sign, Mississippi River. I said, this is when I'm making speeches all around. I said, good God Almighty. Everything he told me was correct. Then I saw this program last week about General Grant's, one of his first big battle was Vicksburg, Mississippi. And so my father was telling me, well, the black troops really helped in that, and they was going down the river on, he was trying to think of the name. I said on rafts. He said on rafts. And then all of the, when he would talk about the people, he said, old man so-and-so, he didn't get a pension because he run off. And then he was talking about the other ones, they got it from the Civil War in his time. Remember, he was born in 1900. The Civil War was only 35 years before. It wasn't, you know. So anyway, and I'm watching this thing on public TV just the other day, whatever it was, I don't know if y'all saw it, about U.S. Grant, General Grant. And everything they said on that fit exactly what my father said. Exactly. The colored troops, the black troops, they lost a lot of troops, and they was on the north part, and I said, good God Almighty. So anyway, the point I'm making is, other people don't pay no attention to that type of thing. Just like when you hear this program, the old ship of Zion, the sounds that they're giving off and the cadence that they're giving off, all of that stuff, that's part of our history. And a lot of people forgot it. I never, not only I didn't forget it, I liked it. You know what I mean? I actually liked it. I liked it then, and I still do all right now. You know, the point is this, is that one of the reasons that there's no continuity continuity in the movement is not only during my generation when we adopted black power and all that type of thing, black nationalism, we let that old other, that was moaning and groaning, colored history. That's, in fact, Elijah Muhammad, and you go in, I think they done took it down, but they used to have a American flag. They used to have a rope. Christianity means slavery, suffering, and death. When you went into the temple in those days, that's what they had. Christianity, slavery, suffering, and death. Okay. Although Elijah Muhammad, 90% of his lectures he took from these preachers. The whole concept, he just blacked it up a little bit. Yes, 100%. And the more I see this old thing and hear, I thought he made up Ezekiel's wheel. I thought all of that stuff the lamb did. That lamb, man, the lamb. Anyway, so if you take the people, you got to watch how they try to malign our people in history. Everything they do about black people in the movement is a little malign, even when they pretending like they're trying to help. So if we see something on what's the name that got killed? Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, it'll be shifted a little bit. When you see Aretha Franklin's story and her father is in it, they're giving you a picture of a hustler that drank, well, because it's just drank a little bit in there. But he was the biggest preacher, see, before King, and King related to him all the time, you know what I mean? He was the biggest preacher as far as the North is concerned. Aretha's father was big. I mean, real big. He was the biggest. And so, the new picture that they try to give, they'll give a picture of Aretha Franklin is a queen of soul, right? And what she went through, and they'll make her father look like just a runaround, a drunkard. And no, he had the voice or the ear of all. Well, not as much out in the West, but for the preachers, everybody was listening to him. Everybody was listening to him, and everybody was incorporating. You could go to any church and you was going to get a certain style, but what I'm trying to bring today is that that collective passage that we all went through. Okay, the passage out of the three stages, if we take the old Negro stage, if we take the black nationalist stage, and we take the Islamic stage, everybody else deal with two stages. They deal with the black nationalists and freedom riders and all that, and then they jump to Islam. So they don't have no continuity. But we go back, like I was saying to everybody else's champion was Muhammad Ali, but mine was Jack Johnson, because that's all my parents talked about, and all they Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson went down, a man went down to get him a cup of coffee and some eggs, and he said, I want some coffee black as Jack Johnson and eggs beat up like Jim Jeffries. Of course, they killed him. But that stuff is actually true. So the thing that I'm trying to impress is what we're actually doing. Because the Negroes over in Baltimore is whining about we're not, people don't like us, something like that. I don't know, I forgot what you remember the article. All the imams. Yeah, the conference they had over there. They was actually feel deprived. I'm sorry. I haven't never felt anything like that. And even all of the stuff comes back because like it say, I'm going through, like personally. But that, to me, it means the people is going through no matter what everybody else do, right? And that's the way we have to be here. You have to be that way because, number one, they going to cut you off, isolate you, and you got to have that old character, that you've been hearing all the time. And that's why it's not a chance of me feeling depressed and oppressed and not liked, as if somebody would care. Because go ahead.
Do you remember the shootout that they had at this church?
At CL at Franklin's church? No, I don't remember who.
This is part of this exactly fits what you're talking about.
Police shootout March 29, 1969. Okay, what had happened to it there? Okay. March 29th, the church was rented by the Republic of New Africa as the site of a black separatist convention. A shootout between police and members of the movement resulted in the death of a police officer. Police raided the church and arrested 150 people in attendance. A controversy followed after the attendees were held and questioned without counsel. During the incident, police fired into the church, causing extensive damage and resulting in the need for financing to repair the bullet-scarred building. In May 1969, as the controversy over the police raid and shooting continued, Reverend Franklin was arrested by the Detroit police, who claimed that they found marijuana in his luggage. Franklin denied the charge, wondered if the incident was connected to the church shooting, and asserted, "Somebody wants to disgrace me." Police had held the luggage for 24 hours, and Reverend Franklin claimed he had never in his life smoked marijuana. The charge was dismissed 1 month later on official evidence. Is this part of it down here about the shootout? Reverend Franklin's shooting?
I think that's another incident. In
1974, 2 gunshots were fired into the church during a service conducted by Reverend Franklin. 2 attendees were wounded. In June 1979, Reverend Franklin was shot twice by burglars at his home in Detroit. The government didn't like him because he's stumbling up on, he getting a dope case. Of course, now he drank, but he might not have smoked no weed, but they find plenty of weed, and there's too many shootouts at his church. For a church, it's a church. Of course, he housed in the Republic of New Africa. I mean, they having a meeting there. That don't. But the Republic of New Africa, Chokwe Lumumba and them been down, or his son, they down in Mississippi. They've been down there. Chokwe was the mayor of Mississippi, and his son is now the mayor. Okay. Well, Okay, I got the point.
Right. No,
That's look.
good contact.
I'm telling. Look, believers. How can everybody that's trying to do something, and you can hear from all of his teachings, he's throwing down, and he getting all them cases, and a man of the cloth. Sure, if they would have busted him on adultery or something, uh, you know, drinking too much and partying, arrested the piano players at his house, you know what I mean, and stuff. A lot of people don't even know that Aretha Franklin had 2 children. She got too old. They must be up in their 60s now, 50s. And hardly nobody knew it. They just kept it quiet. But anyway, the point I'm making is continuity. Continuity. When we talk about the old ship of Zion, it's in modern times. It's in modern times, and this time when we start talking about it, when we start really nailing the Muslims understood it, but when we started dealing with Christian population, that was years later. That was years later. Why? Because all the people, when you mention Zionism, they remember, that's what they're thinking about. When you're talking about the crossing over, the river and everything and the burning bush, you're talking about Moses, and that's something to them, that means in the old days, crossing the Jordan River meant that you're going into the promised land. Now, Moses, according to the Bible, he didn't go into the promised land. He didn't go, according to the Bible, that he stayed over on the other side. And they went over, finally, after 40 years, they went over into the promised land. So we look at the Bible, and all of our teachings was basically totally different from the white church. They would say the most segregated time in America is on Sunday morning. It is. The whole rhythm. Can you imagine standing in church singing the hymnals? Them hymnals? No. Got to remember, when you went to church, you could hear it. The people getting the Holy Ghost. The people have been oppressed all week long. And you know it and they know it. It was therapy. It was psychological release. Some of them people was really hollering and shouting, and they was the preacher had the ability to bring all of what's in them out. And it wasn't that lady the one just hollering, but everybody else, they all of what the suffering, the oppression, why you think black people always said, hey man, what's going on? That's all we call each other man. Hey man, what's going on? Because the white man always was calling us boy. Always. Never a man. Hey, you're a man. No, he didn't do that. So we called each other. That's what we may not even call you by your name. Hey man, what's going on? Hey person, you're a man. You're a human being. You know what I mean? With individuality, with purpose, with character. You somebody, as they used to say. All right. So the mission that we have right here, people may not understand how we just cruise right along, how nobody's there. They won't talk to you. Excuse the French. To hell with them. Who cares about them? Right? If you remember, you mean you gonna sit here while your people went through all of that and they held on with a thread. They did, hey man, and we're going to sit here with the little old stuff. Oh, you got brutalized. I wasn't brutalized. The nigga hit me upside the head a few times, and that was so what? That's the way I looked at it. And remember, I had to tell my sons, you just have to mind your own business, because we got a reason for doing what we're doing. They wouldn't understand it. They couldn't understand it, right? Because there's no continuity. Life starts for them when they, you know what I mean, when they was a few years old running around at their mama's house. That's when life starts for them. It didn't start like that for me. It was always way back sitting around. And that's why I remember, okay, in 56, when I went back, you know, and me and my brother, I was 12. I tried to pick a little cotton so that he was a few years old. We walked down one row, and we had our 49er jackets on, and you know, everybody used to call us California when it was in Arkansas, because we was just sharp, you know what I mean? They was from Arkansas. You know, they was country folks, and we was like celebrities, you know. And so I go down one row and come back. The little old bag I took to the thing, they'd have a scale where you'd weigh the cotton. I didn't care. I said, hey, man, this ain't no fun here. So I have picked cotton before. But I wanted to pick cotton because when I was there, I was 6 years old. So to me, everything in the country was fun. You know, I'd stand on the porch. They said that boy would stand on the porch and eat watermelons and pee all day. That's what I did. And then all I remember was, hey, buddy, get that cow out of the watermelon patch. That's the first sound I remember. Buddy is my older brother. So because the cow walked through the watermelons and bust the watermelons, you know. So get that cow out of the watermelon patch. And all the old mules and horses we had in G Hall, baby, y'all don't know what that means. Anybody know what? When you plowing and you got them long straps over your shoulder, you don't have to use them all the time. All you do, the mule is walking down and you want him to go a little way, you say G, you know, and he go over this way a little bit. You say Hall, he go over that way. So G and Hall, you grow up with, no, that stuff is normal. You know, that stuff is normal. And so, look, if we got anything to brag about, it's the first stage where the white man didn't have no body still alive that knew that stuff from my father's time. They didn't have it. They didn't have it, and they probably wouldn't have understood it. That is the main pillar we beat the cracker with right now today. Right? Because he didn't understand it. We could sit here and tell him, boss man bite the dust, cause this, that, and another. He wouldn't know what the heck what is that? That don't mean nothing. To him, it don't mean nothing. Right? But psychological guerrilla warfare, right? It's a modern term, but it's the old Negro stuff. I used to watch, them old Negroes could get like, we had mules and horses and stuff, but in 1950, when the white man had the rich white man in town, he had new tractors and them black 1950 Chevy trucks, brand new. And we used to use it all the time. Because my father knew what to do with white folks. You know what I mean? He was well adapted to his era, to his time. And we never saw a hungry day in our life. Never, you know. And I didn't realize how in pocket my father was till later when I went back as a grown person and the people that was his friends was relating certain. I said, okay. So, you know, because if for us, we thought, well, I said one thing that we was poor. Well, we went barefooted. We lived in a cabin and slept on pallets and all that. So I thought we was poor. But my sister was 10 years older than me, and she knew the business my father did. So you would look at us, we looked like all the other Negroes, but we were well-to-do. Not that my father was a loan shark or anything, but and my grandmother was good at business. And right now, when I go down to Arkansas, I look at the name on the founding stone, whatever they have, and my grandfather is there. And they have 1900, this church, Star Bethel was da-da-da-da. So what I'm saying is, one of the reasons that we're still here and active and fired up is because what everybody else is whining about, we think it's normal. That's just what white folks do. Another thing I want to be very clear about, if you look at Hezbollah, Hezbollah is smart. What do they say in Lebanon? They know it was Georges, whatever his name is, him and his crew. The Christians, they shot the Muslims point blank, the Shias especially. This last week. They didn't respond, right? The last bombing, this Friday, Shia Masjid in Afghanistan, and one the week before, all of them Shias. And the Shias are not responding. Whatever they do to us, we don't respond. Just like what's the name was saying, and I learned this a long time ago, the light Negroes against the dark Negroes, the wealthy Negroes against the poor Negroes, right? And if we responded to those coons, I refer to them as coons, in California, I'm not going to say where would we be now, Allah knows best, but I never even considered responding. Never even considered responding to what anybody else, all the stuff, every time we get up, that's the thing that brings us down. I don't care. They sell weapons to both sides. It was the Iran-Iraq war. They was making the Iran-Contra, whatever. They was making sure Iran had weapons to fight Iraq, and so they didn't want it to end in a hurry. They could just drag on and wear each other down and wear each other out. They hated them both. We don't do that. We don't do that. We're not tired. We don't fight other niggas. You want something, boss man? Come on by here. We deal with you directly. But I'm not fighting no other nigga. Even under assault. Now that takes a lot. That's not Jesus. That's strategic management under conditions of repression. Right? Because the Negro shoot another Negro out there, we say it every other week. And the police come by, the niggas throw their guns away. They used to throw them in them bushes. I don't know if you remember. Right there. I'm sitting there in the window. And you know how shoot up this neighborhood was at that time. And the police rolled by, and them niggas be, well, police is just, I mean, a gun is to shoot people. If you can shoot a nigga, why not? Well, they respect them. That's why we never, ain't no way in the world. And this is not a new phenomenon. This is from way back in the 50s. And the white man knew it. He said, you're race conscious. I'm 59. I had to think about it. I was 14. No, I wasn't 14. Well, yeah, I was 14, 13 or 14, probably. Yeah. You're a race, Reams, you're a race conscious. Well, I'll be dog. What else I'm supposed to be? That was before black consciousness, you know. If it's 20 niggas, 20 white boys, and 20 Mexicans, it's okay. But one leader can mobilize 10 Negroes to stand and manage and run that whole company if they got one good leader. Just one good leader. And they outnumbered. Automatically, that type of stuff, maybe it's certain gift. But now we'll go into our time and the present time, selling weapons to people to fight each other, right? The weapons dealers sell this side like the old time weapons did in the U.S. They sold weapons to the Indians and to the white man. This is terrible. Not terrible, that's what they do. The weapons manufacturers today, all the big manufacturers, the U.S. is big. The Israelis is big. The British is big, right? The Russians are big. All of those people, they will sell all of their weapons to both sides. Both sides. The longer you fight, the more money they make. The less trouble you are. Right? If you kill each other off, you know. The point I'm making is, we're not here by accident. All of this stuff we have been absorbing, and it's so simple, it's so basic, but to implement it puts you on a different level. In other words, if we see something and we implement it, we're different from those people who are just observing. You see what I mean? They're observing this stuff. They're not implementing it. So the defense industry, or let's call it the war industry, so there's something that has happened here. We have survived all of this, and you got to remember, although I still get around pretty good, you know, for my age, but that's several generations now. See, when I show you all these pictures, that's 50-something years ago. That's over 50 years ago. Way over 50 years ago. And that predates Superfly. So who was all the blaxploitation following? They was following this, because this was out before those blaxploitation movies. They just started showing Negroes on TV. And what was they dressed? Just like that. Except they wasn't that sharp. Boy, I'm telling you, that's pretty sharp. You'd have to live during that era to understand it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you, that's the way it, you know, it was fashion show all the way. That's why we got pictures in the fashion page on. But the point is, Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. See that sign? Do you know that sign was taken down right after that because people was coming by. And that sign is big. It's pretty good size. It's the same size as 8 by 12, 8 by 4. A piece of sheetrock, 8 feet long. It's not sheetrock, but it's the type of a board that this is written on. 4 by 8, yeah. Not to mention, do you remember when that house that we live in looked like that? Good God Almighty. Nobody wanted it. I said, shoot, we'll take it. So we got that in the lot next to it for $15,000. Maybe the lot next to it 20, but the city owes us for that lot. They cheated us, but there's no problem. They didn't cheat us. I mean, because we just paid $5,000 for the lot. We was going to pay $20,000 for the house, but we offered them $15,000 for the house, and they took it. Then they say, "You want to buy the lot next to?" I said, "Well, another $5. I was going to pay $20 anyway." But the point is, we have just what we've done so far. Okay, it may seem like little or nothing, but how many people around here, how many Muslims around here are still talking out of the side of their mouth with the whole, you can tell that the system is shooting at us. It's just evident. It ain't no secret. Everybody know that. That everybody is doing everything, the system is doing everything it can to undermine us. And we just cruising along. Why are we cruising along? Because we can visualize our mission. Our survival, part of our survival is part of our mission. Because right now, every now and then we throw a few little flakes in there, how to punk the FBI. Years ago, nobody would do that, but that's just to show the people you just sitting over there scared. What are you scared of? You know, and guess what? Hey, man, what it does, instead of bringing people closer to us, they say we're getting as far away from that Negro as we can. Right? I mean, but that's okay. Because, see, we have a different mission. It's a mission of continuity. Everybody else that's still here, they started in the black days. Guess what? They've knocked all of those brothers out. They've knocked them all. All of my friends are long gone. It ain't nobody, and a couple of them get out of prison. I ain't going to mention their names. We go up to New York, some drop them off a little bit. We just say, it ain't like the old days. We don't have that kind of, well, if it had been a few years before, it would have been all right. But, you know, just a little something, you know, several grand, to other people, it would be a lot of money. You know, but we just drop it off. We just get out of 10 after 30-something years, you know. And after you leave, you don't hear from nobody again at all. You just don't hear from them. That's it. It's fine. But, you know, it might have been a condition, because as I was told, man, I had to go and get myself out of this situation, because I was waiting on these lawyers. In other words, it's an agreement. It's an agreement. Just come on out. And then it's easy to talk that trash like we do, but see, I did time here, time there, 4 or 5 years or something like that, 2 years. But I ain't never did no 30 years. I just never did 30 years. So I'm not qualified to say what people should do. If you're sitting there and the movement is dead and everybody's dead, and you done raided the armored car on New Jersey Turnpike and snatched up what's the name, and she went to Cuba and you went to Algeria and stuff like that, right? If that's your team, that might have been your job. You know, you don't have to go back every week and redo this, play the scene over and over again. History might have been, see, I wouldn't have done that. Probably. Well, maybe. But I know I could see my part was to give everybody some money. And everybody thought I was crazy, buying niggas cars, doing this and doing that. East Oakland Enterprises was real. It instituted, Oakland was just the right size, just the right everything, right? For us to institute that program that he wanted to institute in Chicago. Guess when it was? Exactly the same time. We cranked that program up in 68, right there, 68, 69. At that time, you know what I mean? We're instituting that. And I got friends as boxers. If they said, well, you're getting the kind of fight you want. Well, a little slow now. Hey, why don't you take this, go around and rent the Oakland Auditorium and have your manager put together a fight. And it's like offering them, instead of being, to become fight promoters. Instead of just, you got a fighter, da, 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 da. But after a couple of times, I could see that this is too big for, they just wasn't thinking about that. But you also have to remember, at our age, if somebody is 23 years old at 68, what the hell do you know at 23 years old? Right? I mean, you're fortunate to be, kicking in on this level. You know what I mean? When you look at it, you said, hey, man, somebody is watching over all of this and guiding it. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying this is what I see, this is what I've seen, and this is what I understand. And this is where we are now. And some reasons that we're here is because we never forgot who got us here. That old stuff about talking about Christians and you remember that letter I wrote it said that we wanted to thank the black church for something about keeping us human. Like, that was the only contact we had with humanity, right? Is the institution called the church. But our church was not the same one, and our attitude was not the same. Everything in that black church related to liberation and freedom. Crossing over to Jordan. There's hidden things in there that people don't even remember, that don't know. Like, see, crossing over to Jordan used to mean going to freedom. Going to freedom. That was the whole understanding. But somewhere along the way, it turned into dying. Now, crossing over, it don't mean going to freedom. Crossing over means you die. Why? Because at some time in black history, the people gave up they didn't know it. Nobody wrote it down. Niggas gave up on freedom. But the language, you see what I'm saying? The language is clear. that there came a period when the meaning of crossing over the Jordan means that you're going to be free, not die, right? But now it don't mean being free. Crossing over, even on tele everywhere.
There we go.
Y'all got to excuse me for hollering, but I recording equipment out, so I'm going to pick up my tone a little bit. But I can tell y'all this. Just like the old song said, we're going through. That means no matter what other people do, no matter what anybody else do, we're not alone and despondent because they don't like us. Bull crap. Well, I'm not. I'm sorry. I don't know what went wrong with the brothers. All of them Negroes. Some of them older than me. And they're feeling sad because somebody don't like them or something. I don't know what, I forget what it was. But I know that's basically what it was. They're not accepted. Well, them other people that didn't accept them, they run off from where they was to come over here, and they hugging boss man, right? But all that's temporary. See, because you know the children now in school, in the colleges, this generation, see, all of them are born and bred here in America. That means they're kind of like us. And they're not afraid like their parents. Their parents might be afraid, you know what I mean, but they're not. Those are the people, we don't know where our large support is going to come from, but we know it's going to come. And also, we don't technically care about what they or them, because we come from a tradition that, man, black people, just from a black perspective, have went through so much in America, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It is hardly nobody, there's a few people in the world that have suffered big tragedies, but this is a super duper tragedy. Because if they did this to the Jews always knew they was Jews. If they was persecuted for that, they knew they was Jews, and so sometimes the persecution made them more Jewish than they was before, right? Well, they didn't do us like that. And this stuff, I'll move toward a close. This stuff about fighting each other, just like Dr. Franklin said, boy, look here, he was on the money. But we've been knowing that all along, and we've been teaching that. Ain't nobody, we're not going to fight any other Negroes and the white man just drive off to heaven somewhere. Or we're not going to let him, what he'll do, we'll hook you up. That's why I made sure my sons didn't get involved. I said, you're dumb. You niggas don't know nothing. You stay out of my business. That's what I told them. You stay out of this because you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing about what's going on. But, of course, they was just physically mad. Well, your madness, boss man will come give you what you need, and he done already gave him what he got and trained him, and he doesn't care who kills who. It'll weaken both of you. He won't have to pay him no extra money for killing you because you done killed him, and y'all will all be dead. It's the oldest, simplest, dumbest thing you can do. Divide, conquer, and rule. This is why we said absolutely not. In that whole history, from pre-Civil War and all of that, you know, that's something we're going to carry. I remember I had a great uncle. He was born the year the stars fell. So my father's telling me all of this. So I just went to it was 1832. 1831, 1833. I just went to the almanac and studied the greatest meteor shower of recent times. It was 1831 or 1833, one of the two. My father was telling me exactly right. Our great uncle did, I don't remember what year, but it was the year the stars fell. To them, and he said they was bouncing around like balls. That means it was a meteor shower that hit the earth. Now, the Negro was not scientific. He didn't know that those were meteors, meteorites. All he knew is they lit up and the stars fell. So when the Negroes tell about it, yeah, he was born the year the stars fell. So everybody knew when it was. You see? Okay, other people don't care nothing about that. We do. I do. That stuff means something. It don't make no difference whether they quit. They can go quit. They can go quit. They can take a salary. They can give up. They can feel sad. They can do anything they want. That's fine. Go ahead. We're not going to do it. And we know we're fortunate. When it uses the word when we read the ayat that we always read about fortunate, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Of course, it's calling on Allah and working righteous deeds, amalu salihat. And then saying, I'm proud to be a Muslim. I'm not scared of being a Muslim. I'm scared I'm going to go hide. Or I feel depressed. The niggas is feeling depressed because somebody that don't know nothing about Islam but the language, right, is not inviting them. And now they feel sad. Well, that's just too bad. That's tragic. I'm not going with them. Anybody else, everybody's free to go. I'm not going with them Negroes. Number one, we have as good a history as anybody in the world, and we have learned to put it in a language and a culture that everybody is drawn to it. I don't care where you go. They like Negro spirituals. They even like that goobly bop stuff the niggas is doing now. I don't like that, but that's okay. It's okay. They can do it. Don't mean nothing to me. But all that other stuff, hey man, God gave us something special. No doubt about it. That nobody had been able to take out. They've been trying to squeeze it out, copy it, you know what I mean? Elvis Presley get to be famous because he tried to sing like a Negro, right? And he can't. I said, boy, he don't sound. Oh my goodness, that boy don't sound like nothing. And he said, a nigga can't do nothing. That's in the early days, but shine my shoes. But by the time he out there in Vegas and Hollywood, guess what? That environment takes all that. He ain't talking that old Dixie stuff no more. He didn't integrate it into the anyway. Look, Allah done hooked us up, man. And the ability to describe the things that we have dealt with, it speaks to all humanity. That's why they like niggas all over the world. Because our description of whatever it is we're describing, and they don't know the language, but they sure feel, what we've been talking about. Anyway. So, I'm not going to, I'll pass over Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. Victory of Islam over the Shah, victory of Islam over the combined forces of American Zionism. Right now, our war is not particularly with Boss Man. Boss Man taken over America. And it took him a little while to get it. I mean, he was at different stages. But they didn't have it in 1956 when Eisenhower made sure that Israel had to take it easy with Egypt and the Suez Canal and Britain and all of that. Okay. But by 68, when they sunk the, what's that ship they hit? The 68, the Zionists hit one of the American ships, and I'll think of it in a minute. Yeah, I think it was around 68 or something. But anyway, they didn't say much about that. Well, they've been slowly, now they got their throat around Boss Man's neck. And everything they do to us, they teach Boss Man now, everything. They teach him about oppressing people. And it's Palestinian-style oppression that we're getting. Not old-time Eurocentric, but this is Zionist hatred. You know what I mean? Head busting, back breaking, anyway. Psychological guerrilla warfare has worked. What we've done here in America has worked. It's worked. We've already done that. We're going into a new stage, but this has all worked. Let me say that again. It's all worked, and it worked well. We still have to, one of our greatest characteristics is still sabr, patience. Because, see, they say getting married is perfection of half of your faith. But there's another one say, wa sabru wa nifsul iman. Patience is half of faith. This is hadith to say that. Okay. So, we already are serving a great purpose in expressing who we are and what we're about. We're already a model for people to follow. They can't pretend like don't nobody know what's going on. In fact, everybody knows what's going on. And we done taught everybody already, you can tell the boss man to kiss your behind, ain't nothing he can do about it. And guess what? It seems like his hands, it seems like he's paralyzed. And the more he's paralyzed, the more fun we make of him. That's our gift. Right? You clown somebody. The Russians did a study on laughing and what have you. And they come up with, they study all that stuff too. You want to disarm somebody, get them laughing. Right? You want to take fear out of people, just like the hadith say. Right? Our hadith say exactly the same thing. You get people to laugh at that Zionist murderer. Right? And you're not as scared when you laugh at him. You don't think of everything he gonna do to you. You think of all this dumb stuff. Look what's happening to the fool. Boy, he can't thread a needle. I'm telling you, things don't look bad. Don't look good for Boss Man. Right? Technically, this is our time. And excuse me for not being exact, but I just wanted to mention those few things about where we are as a people, and that there's a reason for the stages that we're in. And there's a reason why we have remembered all of those people that went before us. You know, they always say you're standing on the, well, we are. You know, other people are ashamed of it. Them old coons, they ashamed of, you know, what their people was going through, and what they adopted. The sounds that they made, there was sounds of all oppression. People have the same things, you know. What did the British? The British outlawed the Irish and the Scots playing bagpipes. What does bagpipes sound like? The bluesiest, most melancholy, right? Them bagpipes that people be blowing them when them long notes, that is melancholy, but it gives them people enough strength to fight an oppressor for 800 years plus and never give up. That's why the people are always trying to change your language and culture, right? So they outlaw that stuff that you like. Can you imagine? The French came to Algeria in 1830. By 1845, they had outlawed Arabic in Algeria. And French was the language. When I went to Algeria, I said, hey man, y'all got to teach me your language. They said, he's a revolutionary, learn French. And then the struggle that developed hit the surface by 81, 82, and 83. If you look at the pictures of all those guys, they were Egyptians. Why? Because Nasser and all of them was expelling Ikhwanis in the 1950s and in the 60s. Algeria had been under France so long, it spoke a disjointed Arabic. They had to import, I was in Algeria, and sure, you would get along better if you just spoke French, right? And they would tell you, and the people would show you, I was in France last year, see how, and they would be proud of that. Although they had fought the French colonialists, they still had a mental colonialism, right? And they told me, learn French. But the Islamic movement caught hold, and the Muslim Brotherhood that was under pressure in Egypt, they needed teachers, so they took them to Algeria and taught them good Arabic. And along with that, the Islamic movement of the early 80s came right out of there. Yeah, I'm just telling you. Us right here, who cares about this little dumb stuff boss man do? Okay, and then ask yourself, who's in better shape, us or boss man? Right? Boss man's in bad shape. That boy, I don't know how he look in the mirror every day. He's a laughing stock. People be saying, oh no, did he do that? Right? Tell the truth. On the news every day. We don't understand what's happened to America. What's happened to America? Now we're going to claim some of the stuff. Now remember we said a long time ago that we was going to accept some of the, it just make boss man mad if we accept some of the credit for what's happening to him. How do we know? We may really be, we're doing something, right? Discombobulated, He does. He is acting discombobulated, right? Whatever that means, that's what he's do. That's what he do all day, every day. He don't do nothing combobulated. It always discombobulated, right? Right? Tell the truth. He don't do nothing right no more. So he can just be sitting there and supposed to eat a little food, and he don't do that. He stick the fork all in himself and stuff right now in front of everybody's. What's happened to boss man? He's supposed to eat some pie. There's a pie. It ain't been touched. He got fork sticking all out of his head, ears, right? That's his behavior. Now, what do you think? You think they're going to do something else? Absolutely not. They paranoid. We got boss man. We didn't scare him to death because we didn't claim, told you, boss man, that's what's going to happen to you. And that's what, he don't know whether we're doing it or not. We say, yeah, boss man, you keep on messing with me. You got 2 more weeks, and see what's happening. And then something happened to him in 2 weeks. He got dug at that nigga. And then he be wanting to, but not, scared. Do you think that we're just sitting around here? No, I'm telling you. Boss man is psychoparalysis is what we call it. Psychoparalysis. That means he's paralyzed mentally. And we claim credit for it. So what? That's just the way it is. Psychoparalysis. Last thing, Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. Well, say, wait on, they just made that up. Well, it's working. Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. That means Negroes don't have nothing in their hand is running boss man crazy. And you don't know. Maybe the nigga's right. One thing about it, he paranoid. Because see, when you get to predicting everything and you get down, get a little predicting Ouija board out, you say, yeah, boss man gonna have a flat tire in an hour, and he have a flat tire. Bam! Oh, good God Almighty. First, that nigga don't that. All boss man airplane gonna crash, glider gonna crash in the water, 5 of them gonna drown. Then 6 people drown, and the thing, and he gets paranoid. He gets paranoid, and then you tell him, put your hands on me again, boss man, see what happens. Boy, look at here. Right? That's what we do. And we don't get tired or or nothing like that. We just sell wolf tickets. And guess what? Something is going on because they all coming out. So he said, nigga got the gift of prophecy. Christians will say that in a hurry. If you predict 3 or 4 things, and I'll close with this, the preacher from St. James Missionary Baptist Church, when I was at Lung Park prison camp out there, I was the Imam in the little joint, and we had a program for Martin Luther King. And when I spoke about Joseph, and the Bible in Genesis 37 it talk about, and they saw the dreamer from afar off, and they said, let us go kill the dreamer. You know what I mean? And so I'm giving that lecture to St. James Missionary Baptist Church, and the preacher, when he came up, he said, I don't know who's giving that to Imam Musa, but that Joseph was a predecessor for our Lord Jesus Christ. I was saying, the dream, Martin Luther King, right? The dreamer. So you just figure out who's the dreamer, and right? And so then, they think, he said, that boy got the gift of prophecy. I said, hey, man, y'all mind your own business. You ain't getting me killed, fried or boiled in oil. You know what I mean? You know, but see, anybody that do something like that, they say, he got the gift of prophecy. That means you can predict a few things. You know what I mean? Or you write 1 out of 200, 1 out of 100 times. You know what I mean? That means you got the gift of prophecy. Prophecy to them is not getting something in words, just predicting a few things. So, oh, you got the gift of prophecy. I say, hey, man, y'all keep that to yourself. You don't know what you're saying. And I know if I want to boil, I just boil myself. I don't need y'all to help. Anyway, dear believers, our mission is we're going into another stage. We're into another stage already. Everything we've done, there's continuity in it. So just remember, anything that you see or hear is part of a long trail. It's not that isolated incident. So have patience and perseverance, because see, that's why we wait on boss man a lot. You know, they do something, we don't just jump up and start reacting. We just, and then the hadith, the hadith is on our side. And it talks about patience. It talks about, the Quran talks about constancy. And it also talks about the ability to, we always say 95% of ability is stickability. And then contentment. And I'll close with that, because if you have contentment with whatever it is that you're doing, everything else is covered. And I'm not saying that's where it's coming from, but so far so good. Are there any questions or comments? I didn't want to. Yeah. Huh?
You said we're in a war right now. So what's the war? Who we going against?
No, the struggle, this is a war. It's a war between, right now, it's a war between the same one been going on, between good and evil.
Right.
Okay? And that war is, and we consider ourselves on the good team. And we consider all of our allies, the people that are maligned and seem isolated, they're the ones making progress, although it's costing them big. So I'm just saying to the brothers, if something is costing us big, it just appears that it's costing us, because we're on the good foot. If it's the people of Lebanon, they're shooting them down. They just, right? But they holding on. They ain't making it. You see their leaders, they just hold it, take it easy. The people in Afghanistan, 2 Masjid, one this week, one last week, and tons of times. Everybody holding on. They're not going to get drawn into. In other words, our discussion today is you control your own motions. You don't let people pull you into or get you into a fight that they want you to fight, because they're going to sell weapons to both sides. Whoever boss man gets you fighting, he going to sell him weapons and he going to sell you weapons till y'all kill each other off. And he's going to go down to the strawberry house and get a strawberry shake or sundae and just stick his feet up and take it easy while you brutalize each other, while you use up all your time, all your resources, and you lose all your focus, right? So that's basically what we've been talking about today, is keeping our focus. And as far as being in a war, we're always in in a war. We call it the battle space. Some people call it the battlefield. You're always on the battlefield. You're always in the battle space because Shaitan is always there and he's always going to do his job. Shaitan is always the bad guy. You don't have to look for who's causing the trouble, right? That's who it is. They now push the idea that the devil, the Shaitan, is a myth. That don't really exist. They call it internal impulses and all kind of scientific names, but it's the devil, right? That's who it is. Okay, we got his whole card. And then the last thing, once the Prophet ﷺ went out to the graveyard to pray for the martyrs, then his wife Aisha radiallahu anha followed him because she thought maybe he's going to another wife's house or something like that. So he picked up on it and she ran back to the house and she asked, "O Rasulullah, why did I do that?" She said, "The devil, the shaitan." So she said, "Even I have a shaitan? You know, I'm the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him." Said, "Yes." He said, "Even thou, O Rasulullah?" He said, "Yes, but Allah have allowed me to conquer that shaitan. He don't suggest nothing but good to me." See, that's the hope. Look, stick to that. That is a real hadith. It's in Sahih Muslim. That's not some Ibn Majah or somebody. That's Sahih Muslim. It is 98% as effective, as close. If Sahih Bukhari, if the sayings are 100, Sahih Muslim, right, is 98. That's how bad it is. It's serious. Right? It's serious. That's okay. In our hadith, don't forget, is stronger than anything you can read in the Bible or anywhere. The hadith. Because it'll say somewhere, and Jesus said. You ever, first Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all them guys is writing what they done heard. But then every now and then there'll be a phrase in there, and Jesus said. Somebody, they done heard. The strongest that could be is the weakest hadith that we could have. They don't know where it come from, but they say, and Jesus said, they heard it somewhere, right? That would be our weakest hadith. And here we have Sahih Muslim, and it's clear that everybody has a shaitan, whispering to him, "Hey man, go and get this." And you can conquer the shaitan. This is what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. Yes, I have a shaitan. Yeah. If you can find that hadith, that'd be nice. But he only suggests good to me. Okay, and I say that to say the discussion today has been those things. It adds up to conquering the devil, appreciating your own processes, your own historical reality. You know, in other words, black people in America. We have a special situation that we've dealt with. Allah gave us some special stuff to deal with that because it's different than other people's. He gave them something else, right? I don't know. The Palestinians got something special Allah gave them because they can tear down their house 5 times in a row and they go build it back. I don't know if I could do that many times. The people in Chechnya was fighting the Russians almost with clogs on, clog I was telling you about in Denmark. And it's so cold up there. And in the wintertime, I said, man, I'd have tried to wait to spring or something, maybe, because, Negroes don't like all that. It just was, it's beyond cold. You know when it's so cold you can't take your key out and put it in the door or something? That's cold. It don't get that cold here, but it get that cold over there all the time, every day. Allah gave them something special. The environmental circumstances, the historical background, they can deal with that. Okay, what Allah gave us, we have to deal with that happily here in America because we can deal with it. Everybody else is scared of boss man. We ain't scared of him. Of course, they act like they're scared, but that's all right. That's all we was talking about. No, we're not. I hope I answered. Alhamdulillah. Are there any more questions or comments? Did anybody find any references to? But remember the thing you showed me about Dr. Franklin, C.F. Frank? Can you imagine the stuff that they did? He's a preacher. They done did more to him. I didn't even realize half of that stuff. They done did more to him than Martin Luther King. Just about.
I think that's why, because, well, one of the reasons,
Yeah.
because Martin Luther King was speaking at his church, they had a relationship.
Shoot.
The time that it occurred, so.
And he had a radio program, and he was throwing down. It was just about, when you think about it, all the stuff he was talking about was giving people what they was given. That's why the people would be in a trance. That's why the church institution those days, most black people, you went there, just imagine. You got boss man on your head all the time, and you get one period, out of the week where you go and you can get it all out of you, where you somebody. You know what I mean? And that's why them people would be hollering to get in the Holy Ghost. It was cathartic, like a catharsis. The preacher was skillful. They don't know, and getting into that rhythm. What do if you go crazy? They get rhythm going, they get a pattern going. I don't care if it's a drum beat or whatever it is, right? To get you into, they make white folks have a little mirror, get you into whatever. Right, they're getting you hypnotized to go off into their thing. The Negro preacher hypnotized every time he got up there. All of them. He hypnotized everybody. He got them in the rhythm, and they didn't care what he was saying. If you listen to some of them Negroes, and yeah, they didn't know that then. They didn't know that then. La ilaha illallah, the only people they heard about was the Lamb. That was 1933. 1916, Noble Drew Ali, the Queen of England called him Noble, and the Sultan of Morocco called him Ali, and gave him a charter to preach Islam in America. That's bull crap. All of it is just jive. So what did they know about? What do they know about anything? I'm telling you that for that period, for that time, you got to realize what we as a people was dealing with and the type of characteristics that it gave to the people. That's all. It's not bad. No, we didn't hear about it. As soon as I heard about Islam, I accepted it. But what about the people before that? They didn't hear nothing about no Islam. First time I even seen something about Islam was in a laundromat, in 1961. It was one of the shirk papers. No, I was 17, so it was 62. It had Muhammad Speaks, a shirk, this shirk. Yeah. It's not even shirk. It's not even shirk. It's not shirk. It's worse than shirk. Who is the original man? Original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. That ain't shirk. That's insanity. Right? Who is God? The Asiatic black man. He don't even make toilet paper. The Asiatic black man. This is student enrollment. This is the lesson. The maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. It's talking about the Negro. Don't make sense to me. I don't believe it. It's insanity. They may not even go to hell because they didn't have no sense. I mean, Allah, because see, Allah, He says, I don't want to stray now and say how you say that was all right. I'm not saying that. In fact, I'll take it back except for this. Where, not only paradise, no eye have seen it, no ear have heard it, nobody didn't even picked it up, but also Allah have ruled for Himself the rule of mercy. That's in the Quran. Allah have ordained for Himself the rule of mercy. Mercy, kindness, right? So that means Allah can overlook anything that He wants, except shirk. The niggas don't make toilet paper talking about they God of the universe. The maker, it didn't have no sense. Whoever said that, they didn't have no sense. So suppose you get drunk and start speaking in tongues like they do at the church house now. These people speak. You ever see them speaking in tongues? They don't know what they're saying. Holy, holy. It's humorous. They say they're speaking in tongues because Paul, something or other, is speaking in tongues. It's ridiculous. That's buffoonery and coonery combined. Do you think Allah, when you think He done rule for Himself the rule of mercy? Suppose a nigga saying something and don't know what he's saying. You don't even know what he's saying. He done taught something in a language and a custom. He don't even know what he's saying.
You said Nigeria.
Huh?
You said the people who go to Nigeria who know how to speak French. I can speak French fluently.
Good.
So they want to talk a full conversation with them. They would not understand nothing I'm saying to them.
In France, in Nigeria? No, if you go there speaking English, Yoruba, Igbo,
French too. My family's from Nigeria.
they don't speak a whole lot of French. Nigeria was a British colony.
I think it's the other side of Nigeria where they speak.
Benin and stuff like there's in that area there's some French speaking, but Nigeria, their language was English because it was controlled by the English. The caliphate was destroyed by the English, and so I don't know. It might be some, but the rest of West Africa is French speaking. They are francophone country. They have anglophones and francophones. Yeah, I used to live over there. I mean, this is what they were saying, No, anglophones, English, Anglos, francophones, French. Yeah. So anyway, are there any more questions or comments about anything?
Sahih Muslim, book 39.
Would you read that hadith?
Aisha, the wife of Allah's apostle, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, reported that one day Allah's messenger, peace be upon him, came Aisha again said, Allah's messenger, is it with you also? He said, yes, but my Lord has helped me against him, and as such, I am absolutely safe for this mission.
Right. The translation said he only suggests good to me. It's saying, yes, that's it.
Well, there's another one
Right.
that's related to Abdullah Masud, where that Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him, said, "There's none amongst you with whom is not well, it says attached, from amongst the jinn." The companion said, "Allah's messenger with you too?" Thereupon he said, "Yes, but Allah helps me against him, and so I am safe from his hand, and he does not command but me for good."
That's right. He only suggests good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one there. So we home free. All that other stuff that slip up on us, it has a lot to do with our attitude and how we use it. No matter what people use against us, right? Allah give us the ability, or Allah ain't gonna let none of that stuff overtake us if we have strong faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing ain't gonna happen. And the proof is right here. We just have fun. Everybody else running around scared of boss man. It ain't nothing of dummy. And every time something happens, every day I sit down there in my joint and laugh. I can't turn on it. I said, let me slip up on the news, see what. I said, I bet your boss man ain't a fool today. He can't be. And there it is. Boss man's the biggest fool. You think he was a fool yesterday? That boy done drank a gallon of Kool-Aid is coming out of his ears, and he's the laughing stock of the world. Every day, right? Every day is something new. But at the same time, he's trying to destroy us. He's starting the trouble in Lebanon. He's starting the trouble with our brothers in Yemen. He's starting trouble everywhere. But he himself, hey, he's in trouble now. Are there any more questions or comments? Nobody had no questions on the line there?
Let me check the other channel. Okay. Yeah, actually there is a question. This is a follow-up question from, I think this was Thursday night's program, on the topic of the Elder of Zion, or the book about the Elder of
The
Zion.
protocols of Zion.
Protocols of Zion.
Yeah.
The brother keeps on referring to it as the Elders of Zion. Maybe
No, it says that. That's what it says, the elders of the protocol. Yeah.
He said, the Elder of Zion, the Elder of Zionists, that's what he's calling it, may be created by a Russian agent, but there is truth there as well, such as when the Zionists come into a country, they control the heartbeats of that nation, such as banking, the newspaper, major movies, industries, sports entities, as well as the political aspect. These things are a fact. In my opinion, this is with the philosophy, Machiavelli ideas of controlling behind the seat of power. It's kind of affirming what you had said.
No, it's yeah. By the way, we have a whole article on Machiavelli in one of our earlier. Anyway, yeah. All I can do is basically halfway agree with it. Is that the only thing? No. What happened is the people quote Protocols of Zion verbatim. The Russian agent that wrote it, and all the scholars agree that it was a Russian agent, that because what's happening is this. And all the people are running away from Russia and going to Paris. Paris in those days, liberal freedom, so-called freedom. Okay. So the Russian agent went to Paris and hung out with them. He joined them. And he discovered and kept notes and wrote about everything that they do. They do take over. But the banking was a Rothschild family, Red Shield. In Germany, they sent one son here, one son there, and they just, out of the 5 of them, Red Shield them, they took over everything. Now there's so many of them, so many kids. It's like the Rockefeller family. They're not consolidated, so the wealth is not as consolidated as it was. But they still exist today. Red Shield, Rothschild. Okay. All of those things that the Russian agent talked about was the tactics and strategies that they use. They get control of the press. What do they get? Systematically here in America. In early 1898 or something like that, they bought the New York Times. They bought the New York Times. The first thing they did, they told all the Jews, I remember by that time they got all those shops and advertisement. They told them, pull your advertisement out of the New York Times. Pretty soon it was almost worthless. They bought it for pennies, the New York Times. They bought it for pennies and then back with the advertisement. Okay, that happened. The Graham family owned this rag here, the Washington Post. Yeah, they owned it, the Graham family. They all from back at that time. So if it's the press, if it's the media, Warner Brothers, do you know there was Russian, what's the name, wrote a book about it, Empire of Their Own. Look at Hollywood. Who built the picture that every American have of America? The Jews. Russian immigrants, right? Warner Brothers, Fox, whoever else they was, all of them. That's why the book is called Empire of Their Own. Huh? MGM, Metro Goldwyn and Meyer. Good God Almighty! What do you need, right? Metro Goldwyn and Meyer. My goodness. Oh, here's what I'm saying. Here they just got lucky. This is not new. They've been doing this from way back in history. You got to look at the history. There's always, history is moving along, and just before they get their hand around everybody's throat, they all look up and they say, it's the you-know-who. Everybody. And you notice when they talk about Hitler, they never play or translate what he's saying. They just have him jumping up and down and da 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 da. You said the poor man is crazy. Why they don't put what they're saying there? You ever read what Hitler was saying? What's the name? Got Hitler's books right on his old Trump. He lives the Führer. Not only him, but all the rest of those Europeans, the Bush family. Heinrich Ford, you know who that is? Henry Ford. You know whose carburetors was in all them German trucks that was bombing there? Henry Ford. I'm telling you, look. So if about what you say, it's not, well, actually, everybody said, they made up a story. Here's what I was told. I was told that, like Jules Verne. Jules Verne wrote a book From the Earth to the Moon, right, and how they got there. They come up with, if you added up that type of cannon and that type of explosives, that his calculation, Jules Verne, was right. The only thing is you would be splattered all over the shell to take you to the moon. Because after you get out so far, it's weightlessness, right? And you just keep on going. So if you can escape the gravitational pull, so Jules Verne, just like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, he had people going under in submarines and all of that way back when, right? That he was able to visualize and calculate correctly what it would take to do that. That's the way they look at the protocols of Zion. Like Jules Verne. Yes, it was correct what they say. They take over the press, they take over this, they take over the banking. Well, it was easy because they just Rothschild them and took over everything, right? And they was already doing that.
So it's fiction, but the rules of that book,
Is
they work in practicality.
they are working. They work.
Yeah, what am I saying? Working.
They work 100%. They work 100%. They work. They. But here's the thing: just before, throughout history, just before they got their hands around the neck of humanity in whatever region they are, just before they squeeze them out, it'll happen here in America too. Get ready. Everybody look up and they say, it's Yahoo. So there's a time when all the people that have died in those wars, not only the Iran-Iraq war, but the Iraq war, and then all of the other Desert Storm and all of that, and all the people that are here that have gone crazy, 22 Americans dying every day. Pretty soon, they'll look up. They're getting ready to find that out now. Who was we over there fighting for? Was it for America? No, it's for them. Why would the Zionists put 4 women in Congress? Because they're not going to do nothing. Because they're not going to put a group of men in there. Why they just not to be any big deal, but because they can be manipulated. And everyone in there, you think a barmaid, Miss Cortez, whatever her name is up there, she's a barmaid, right? She's a barmaid. Now she's in Congress. And what's her name? Hadn't did nothing. They go around and they choose. Why they didn't choose one of the brothers from whoever they are over there? They choose her because they already know who they can manipulate. Now, we said all this a long time ago. This is not new. We just said, keep your eye on it. We're going to give everybody a chance. We ain't going to ride no broom on nobody. But that's what it is. Okay, so we'll close with this. The protocols of Zion are technically not real, but it is fiction that have taken on the cloth of reality. From research, they wrote a fiction based on the most accurate research. So the forecasting.
Actually, it's the same thing that those folks have done to other people. They place themselves in communities, study those communities, and reported on whether this ain't us. They reported on our positive aspects and come up with movies about them, but they've all been fiction. But so once you turn it on them, now it's
No, it's history is going our way. History is going our way. I'm talking about right now.
History is repeating itself the way we can see it before back then.
Huh?
I said history is repeating itself in our favor, in the black favor, because everything that's happening has already happened before.
Yeah, the history does. It definitely repeats itself. That's why if you have a good understanding of history, you're not. That's how you trick boss man. He think That nigga got a crystal ball. I mean, there was a couple of times when it was, it just depended on something else. But he's paranoid. He's paranoid right now. He ain't doing nothing. He's paranoid. And we tell him, you be good and you come and sign a contract and we'll might give you a shot. You can do what he wants. It don't make no difference. That's the deal. Yeah, that's the deal. So anyway, if that's all, that's it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي